Hello and welcome to the walk-off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. We are diving into a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon. I actually had more interaction this last week than normal, and we get a ton of interaction. So if you did not get into mailbag, apologies. We can normally get to about 10 to 12 questions, comments per mailbag. And I'm going to tell you, it is 10 to 20 times that in the folks reaching out. So, love how much you all shoot messages and ask questions and stuff like that. Don't take it personal if you don't get in. Twitter is a good way to get a hold of us at Walk Off Podcast. Blue Sky, we're on the Walk Off Podcast. Same with Instagram. If you must have your voice heard, well, the Patreon bump is the way to do that. For $4 a month, you automatically get into the mailbag, as well as bonus content on MLB Mondays and instant access to all of our interviews and shows that we're doing. On that, we're going to dive in here. And you know what, man? This team, this is something I was complaining about on MLB Mondays yesterday. This team, you know how the old saying, two steps forward, one step back?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
The Toronto Blue Jays hate that saying, and they prefer one step forward, one step back. There is no movement on this team. They love a good sweep, whether it's sweeping a team or being swept. Why win a
Keep it
series
clean.
when it's the old Mighty Ducks saying, right? It's not worth winning if you can't win big. They also feel the same way about losing. I don't like it.
Oh my God.
But I will say this yesterday was a very fun game to watch. Kevin Gosman is looking like 2023 Kevin Gosman, dude. 8 innings pitched, 5 hits, one
Fantastic.
earned run, no walks, 6 Ks. Forget about no walks last start. This man has not walked a batter in 4 starts. This is the same version of Kevin Gosman we saw last week. The splitter, dude, it is carrying through the zone and breaking down instead of kind of spraying horizontal, which was what he was getting into trouble with earlier in the season. He's figured out this fastball splitter combo again, which he had down to a T when we first signed him. And then he hit a wall last year. And honestly, dude, watching Kevin Gosman after we have had so many talks this year about not really having a number one in this rotation and arguably not even a number two. No offense to Chris Bassett, who is, I think you
Yeah.
could get away with saying he has been a number two this year. So Kevin Gosman looking really good. I'm starting this mailbag off with a little bit of positivity because we really are, when it comes to positive and negatives, all over the map in this mailbag. So starting with Kevin Gosman looking good. He has been everything we need out of that top of the rotation guy in May, anyways. So let's dive
Mhm.
in here. This one's from Johnny from Patreon. The fan reactions to this team are hilarious. It's exposing every in the moment roller coaster ride and fan. Yeah, this team just swept a team after being swept, after sweeping, after being swept.
Mhm.
LOL. It's a
Mhm.
500 team, more or less. If they squeak into the playoff thanks to a little run at some point, great, or just a steady 6 steps forward, 5 steps back situation, I'm fine with it. Yeah, this has been a really odd rendition of the Toronto Blue Jays because you constantly feel like they're getting hot and about to come out of it and putting it together and the offense is clicking, and then they hit a wall and you're like, they're burying themselves. They're done. They can't close the game. Their bullpen's on fire. Their rotation looks weak and they're not scoring runs, and then boom, you win a 2-1 game against Jacob deGrom. I'm having a
I
hard
mean,
time
who
really figuring out what to say about this squad.
who had Dalton Varsho home run against DeGrom on their bingo card? Yeah. Yeah, no, it is.
So Adam, here's what I'm asking the grounds crew to do. We're going to do
Yeah.
a temperature check on
Hmm.
this team in general. We're well aware of the problems. Number one, Anthony Santander. Where is he? He's there in human form. We see his
Hmm.
body, but there has been no production. There has been none of the home run power we were hoping to see. I shouldn't say none. He's on pace, I think, for 20 dingers. Not good enough.
Wow.
The starting rotation, they either give up a bunch of home runs or they're Kevin Gosman last night. This rotation needs to
Yeah.
start keeping the ball in the park if we are going to see success this season. Like, this is the thing. We're sitting here May 27th. The Toronto Blue Jays are one game under 500. And this hasn't been a they can't get on a run team. It's all runs, many runs. So I don't know what the solution is here, but they got to figure it out. And I know that there's talk about maybe a shakeup manager wise. I don't really think John Schneider's the problem here. I and I do say that, by the way, by saying by justifying. I also don't think John Schneider is the solution. You know, like I
Yeah. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
anyways,
Um,
this all to say, grounds crew, drop your temperature check below. Where are you at on this team? We're all a little frustrated, but I will say I feel like we're frustrated over this team in a different way than maybe we have been in the last couple of years. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that they're finding new ways to drive us crazy, but that's kind of where I'm at.
yeah, this team, man, it is sort we're 2.5 games back of a wild card,
Yeah.
also known as right in the hunt, in the thick of things.
Hmm. Adam,
Here's
let's
my
let's name what we need because it feels like this team needs a
ugh.
bat.
Well, before we say that, my counter question to the temperature check
Okay.
is we're 2.5 games back of a wild card. If at the end of September we're a wild card team, do you think this roster can actually do any damage, or is this a out in the first round kind of roster? Because that's
As is?
yeah, like that's where we're going with what does this team need is like, yeah, okay, we're treading water here, but this is not at all a team that makes me feel like, hey, as long as we can squeak in, anything can happen. Because that's how I felt in years past, where
Yeah.
we have not quite squeaked in, or
Hmm.
we've squeaked in and then had a collision in the outfield. But this does not necessarily feel like that team anymore, where it's like, oh, like we're feisty and if we can just get hot, but I don't feel that way right now. I feel like we can if we can get hot, we can sneak in. And that's like the ceiling right now. So this team needs a lot of work. So what do we need? We need
I think that starts with a high end starting pitcher. I think it starts with a bat.
well, high-end starting pitcher is going to be tough to spend when you don't have much to give up for it, and everybody is in the market for a high-end starting pitcher.
Tough to argue that. And they could probably use a little bit of bullpen reinforcement too. We still are waiting on Eric Swanson to get back, and there is a big question mark surrounding whether he is going to be the guy we need him to be or not. Jimmy Garcia hitting the IL is a real hit to this bullpen,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Jeff Hoffman struggling the way he has over the last month of the season.
Mm-hmm.
He got the save last night, looked all right, did what he had to do. Can Jeff Hoffman get right? That would be huge. And I do think that there are reasons Hoffman has struggled. I think it started with overuse and then it kind of spiraled into more than that. So the dream is he becomes sure-footed again, maybe gets out of his head a little bit and goes back to the dominant force we watched in April.
That is a glass half full way of looking at it, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm desperate, but I'll take it.
Again, May 27th. It's too early for me to give up hope on this team, even though there's
Yeah.
lots of reasons. And I know that we're probably going to get some comments as to why this team maybe should be not given up on, but why there should be some major upheavals within the front office and within the core come next season for 2026.
Can I just say, I'm not a big tattoos guy, but when I'm down on this team and I say, like, I'm out on this team, and I realize I co-host a Blue Jays podcast, living in Edmonton and watching how good these Oilers are, and went to the Cup Finals last year, like, we're in a good position in the semifinals this year. Just because I'm out or feeling like, this season is a write-off and I'm out on this team, there is no other sports team I would ever consider getting a tattoo of, like for a logo. And I'm not saying I would. Again, not a
Yeah.
big tattoos guy. But like if I was to get any sports team tattooed on like my calf or my arm or whatever, it would be a Jays logo
Mm-hmm.
by a mile. And I would never consider getting an Oilers tattoo or any other team ever. But Blue Jays, I could see myself doing that at some
I
point.
like it. I like it.
I fucking love this team. I love this team more than any other sports team ever. I grew up born in Saskatchewan, Rough Riders fan. Would never get a Riders tattoo. Love the Riders. Blue Jays. I love baseball. Baseball is the best. Blue Jays are my team.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. I'm not
I'm with
delusional,
you.
is the
I'm
thing,
with you.
right?
I'm with you. And you know what? That's part of the territory that comes with following this team day in and day out and knowing the ins and outs of everything. Is we're
I
almost
just know we're gonna get
we
pushed back that like, oh, you guys aren't even fans. Like if you're doubting this team, like you got to have some faith. And it's like, well, I can
Adam,
fucking
we
still be a
know
fan.
too much. Honestly, that's part of the problem here. We know too much. I remember watching this team when baseball to me didn't start until the hockey playoffs were over. And I'd jump on board full in June. Be like, where are the Jays at? Let's take a look here. Let's see. And even if they were out of it and people were down on them, I'm like, whatever, it's June. We got this. Like
Yeah.
And now here I am looking at a 500 team in May and I'm like, kill me. This is the worst. When are they going to start
It,
showing promise?
you know what? A big, I think, factor working against I'm going to say against this Blue Jays fan base. Anybody that became a fan in the last 10 to 12 years, really got into baseball, whatever, right? Like through the Batista,
Yeah.
Donaldson, Encarnacion era, the Tulowitzki trade, getting Price, like that whole like Alex Anthopoulos dying swing as he's going down. Um, that era has skewed Blue Jays fandom into what is possible and what is something to be expected. Because we were in a similar position that year, went out and made a couple huge trades, and the team went on a big run.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So because that is in our like recent, even though it was 10 plus years ago, in our recent memory, that does make you go, hey, we're a game under 500 on May 27th. But we're like, what were we just talking about? We're one ace and one big bat away
Yeah.
from like, oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we sell ourselves these lies because we saw it once a decade ago.
Yeah.
And we go, we can do that again. And then the other side of that is the late bloomers of Jose Batista
Mm-hmm.
and Edwin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is every other journeyman prospect that we have when Nathan Lucas
Yeah.
is, got a 805 OPS a month into the season. We go, hey, maybe we found the next Jose Batista. He was a late bloomer, right? Bowden Francis, 29-year-old rookie pitcher. Maybe we found a guy,
Mm-hmm.
like it happens. Remember Edwin? He wasn't a young buck when he had his breakout, so like we kind of have sold ourselves this old magic bean story. And it's like, whatever, like, be a fan any way you want. But, like, that is where I
I
think it
think
is
this
kind
is
of like setting us up for, like, a little bit of Davis Schneider, we went through it with, right? We're like, holy shit, like, maybe Davis Schneider is going to just be a guy for us. And it's
yeah.
like, okay, maybe, 1% chance. Like, and for sure, any successful team needs those guys to work, like needs to have a couple of those guys, needs to fall backwards into a superstar that they drafted in the ninth round and for whatever reason develop slow and then stop playing outfield and learn to pitch and
And
is
that's
dominant. Like that stuff needs to happen, but you can't like bank on it and make that part of your design
yeah.
going into it, right? So
I
like
was just
we're
about to say
miles
that
away.
this is why like I agree with everything you just said here. I think maybe Blue Jays fans aren't quite as different as every other baseball fan. Like that's what kind of makes baseball such a funny sport is that the fans can always be like, well, remember this one time where this random thing happened out of nowhere and saved the season? Like,
Pirates fans don't say that.
no, that's true. Pirates
They go, remember
fans.
that superstar we had and then we traded him to the Yankees?
Yeah,
Uh,
I
I
guess
can't
we
wait till
could
Paul
we could
Skeens is pitching in the AL East.
we could all have it worse if we were Pirates fans. That's true. All right, moving on. This is from Mish in Patreon. She goes, "Uh-oh, you've reached the write it down stage of life, LOL.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, dudes. I'll remember is a fucking lie. Get used to just booting up your notes app or asking Siri to take a note." Very true. I was talking about this on MLB Mondays. I think is just like I can't remember shit anymore. I'll get
Well,
told.
I talked this on Friday for the Patreon. I was doing a preamble and I had a thing that was going to make a great preamble that I was going to talk to you about, and then I forgot what it was.
Hilarious.
So that's also tied in. We're just both old guys that need to write shit down. You'd think as
Oh,
comedians we'd know better than to trust our
I
memory.
was
Every
just gonna
time you have an
say
idea for a premise,
the
you're
amount
like,
of
oh,
times
that's funny.
exactly that I'm
Let's write that
we're
down.
like this is too funny to forget. Obviously, we'll
Why would I
remember.
forget something this funny?
I don't need to write it down. In fact, I'll develop it in my head as I go. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
great. And then the
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're like, what was that thing?
Yeah.
Mike Knowles wrote in, another Patreon member here. He goes, I can't help but feel someone in the Rays analytics department really has the number on our main hitters for years and years. We struggle to score runs. Whoever they roll out on the mound, it's tough on us. I feel like they're just smarter than the entire organization. Or maybe it's just the crappy stadium. I still want to feel like this team can click together. I still believe in them. They need a big deadline. Somehow? Question mark. We have no stock for big trades, but they somehow need to acquire a starter and a bat. Just talking that. If the vibes are up in
Mm-hmm.
August, the schedule is there to go on a big run. We only need to be a 500 team at that point, and they can still do it. What was I just saying? We're so close. We're just a starter and a big bat away, and we've got this, buddy. It's 2015 all over again.
Yeah.
That's the other thing 2015 did to us, Jays fans, is like you look at the schedule at 100 games, and if you're like 50 and 51, you're like, we're in it. We're still totally in this.
Mm-hmm. If we, all we need to do is rattle off 17 straight,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're laughing.
True. Patreon
Uh,
member Metal Manic says, I'm tired of must win series. I said on MLB Mondays yesterday that this series against the Rangers is a must
Rangers.
win.
Mm.
And I'm with Metal Manic. I am also sick of must-win series. This is what happens when you keep getting swept, is you really set yourself up in a situation where you must return that sweep. And so far the Jays have done that. It's been a yo-yo up and down the month of May anyways, and I'm kind of sick of it. But that said, let's sweep the Rangers. Let's go.
Let's go.
Veracity. This is from Patreon as well. This is out of Discord. Veracity goes, Barger has been amazing this month. Definitely have high hopes for him. Between him, Rodin, and Wagner, I feel like we have a decent new core. Namala, Yasavich, and Stefan can join in on that. I mean, listen, if we are talking a new direction come the trade deadline and things aren't lined up as we're hoping they are, maybe there is a retweak, retool, rebuild coming. I mean, with some of the guys locked up, Kirky and Vladdy and stuff like that, maybe this isn't a deep rebuild, more of like a retool as I framed it there. But yeah, if things look bleak come July, and when I say bleak, I don't mean sitting around 500. I mean 5 to 10 games under 500. I do think we'll see this team sell off. At least a Bo Bichette, a Kevin Gosman, possibly a Chris Bassett. You know, like there's some valuable starting pitchers that we could see go. Max Scherzer if he's healthy. I don't know. I don't know how this is all going to look, but yeah, if you are going to circle guys in this roster that you want to see more of and give some runway to, I think Addison Barger has done enough to, I don't know if necessarily be in the core, but be a fringe core guy that you want to definitely give playing time to. Addie's looked good.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, he looks better than I was expecting him to look. The arm is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd make a great right fielder for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been impressed with Addison Barger. I know there's been some hype on him for a couple years. He looks good. Looks
It is
good.
going to be interesting to see what this team does as Andre Jimenez is approaching return. I know that he's doing some rehab starts. I think he's got a rehab start tomorrow in Dunedin. And then after that, he'll probably be bumped up to Buffalo for a couple of games. And he's eligible to come off the IL as early as Friday. So what is going to happen with Addison Barger's playing time? Are we going to watch Ernie Clement, who is also heating up right now? Are we going to watch him take back over third base? More Addison Barger in the outfield? Are we going to watch Tony Taters maybe lose a little bit of playing time? Obviously, you wish to get Santander where he's got to be for this team to be competitive, but also he's been just a black hole of offense right now and has been very unproductive. So I don't know if you would rather see Addison Barger in there. The other question mark too is, does Jimenez come right back in as an everyday starter? What are your thoughts, Adam?
Yeah,
He does,
yeah,
right?
he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he does. I think he's Dalton Varsho 2.0. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's just if he's healthy, he's in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a flag that the front office has planted, and he's a guy. Like I think you just got to ride out the offensive struggles and whatever. But I think he's your as long as healthy, your everyday second baseman. I don't know
Grounds
what he would
crew.
have to do defense or like offensively to lose that job.
Grounds crew, any differing opinions here? Thoughts on Andres Jimenez return? What the protocol is going to be for Addison Barger? Are we going to watch him to continue to play the hot corner? Do you think he loses that to Ernie, who slides back over to third? Are we going to see Barger get more playing time in the outfield? He does have that monster arm, which is a huge weapon that can be used in right or left field. A little something to think about, too, is that George Springer is hitting 187 over the last 30 games and has kind of turned back into a pumpkin as, after all of
Thank
us were
God
wowed.
Varsho has replaced that offensive production. Hey, Could not have been timed better.
Dalton Varsho. Okay, I know there's a question about him, so we're not gonna get into early here. We're
Okay.
just gonna move along. But yeah, Dalton Varsho, man, what a stud. Okay.
Sorry, you mentioned trades and Kevin Gosman maybe having trade value. So
Mhm,
Bassett was on an expiring deal, so
mhm.
he'd be a full rental. Gosman, 23 million this year, 23 million next year as well. So there's a little bit more of a commitment,
But
which might
that's
be
probably ups his
concerning.
value if he's. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the thing is like he's aging.
Mhm.
So you go, well, it is, we are locked in for next year too. But the counter to that is 23 million is not a scary price tag. Like
It's
I'm
not
looking
an
at the
outrageous.
what the top free agent starters got last year in the offseason. Snell, 36 million a year. Corbin Burns, 35 million a year. Max Fried, 27 million a year. Sean Manaea, 25 million a year. Nathan Eovaldi, 25 million a year. So like it's not that bad to be like, wow, we're gonna get him. Maybe he's our number four. Like I don't think that the extra year is would be a deal breaker, I think.
No, I don't think it's prohibitive at all. In fact, if anything, I
Yeah.
truly do believe that it leans positive depending on how he's performing by the trade deadline. But fingers crossed, we're not even talking about this. Going to Twitter at Walk Off Podcast. Andrew Rampersad reached out. He goes, just a crazy stat here, boys. Eyes emoji. And the stat he sent was Rangers Jacob DeGrom fails to record a strikeout for the first time in his career yesterday
Wow.
afternoon against the Blue Jays. Number
That's
one,
cool.
what an insane stat.
Mm-hmm.
Like to
Truly.
to have never not had a K until last night. Wild. Moving on to Trevor, he reached out on Twitter. He goes, Gosman doing his best to build his value so we can move him at the deadline when we are out of it. Quite the start. Just kidding. Maybe. At this point, it's 50-50. That's what happens when you take one step forward and one step back. It's 50-50. Everything's 50-50. You move nowhere. You move
Mm-hmm.
fucking nowhere. But boy, you stay on that starting line, right? You're not going backwards. You're not losing yardage.
Indeed.
Going to Madison. She DM'd us. This is from Blue Sky. We are on Blue Sky now. If I'm not following you, I know you can't message me. That's as easy as just literally writing down, hey, follow me, and I will refollow. I do try to follow everyone who follows, but also I'm bad at that. So Madison goes, hey guys, just trying again for mailbag. I'm feeling like this might be my week. Hey, mm, a little
Mm-hmm.
manipulation, and I fell right for it. I'm like, yeah, she's in. Uh, is this the real Dalton Varsho in your opinion? When is he a free agent? Would you guys like to see him extended? So let's start with when he's a free agent. He has a year and a half left on this deal, so he's got another year after 2025, and then he hits free agency as you are going into the 26-27 season.
Which lines up with the
The
departure of
strike.
Ross Atkins.
Yes. Right.
Yes. Um, is this the real Dalton Varsho? I don't think so. I don't think the baseball card says anything about him being a 50 home run pace guy.
No. I
So,
I do think so. Dalton Varsho had his career high in home runs while he was in Arizona. This was the year right before the Blue Jays went out and traded Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno for him. He hit 27 bombs, which everyone, honestly, when the Blue Jays went out and got him, they said, well, he'll be a 30 home run guy in the AL East. This is a division filled with parks that are more are traditionally better for hitting dingers in. Rogers Center was traditionally a home run friendly park. It has not been the case as of recently. Do I think this is the real Dalton Varsho? I do agree with Adam. He's not a 50 home run guy. Do I think that this power is sustainable and that we can see him be a 30 home run dude? Yes. And he's been working on his swing. He is getting more lift. And you know what? I'm fine with Dalton Varsho, and grounds crew, feel free to pipe up here and put me in my place if you disagree. I'm fine with Dalton Varsho hitting 200 if he's going to be hitting 30 to 35 bombs a year. This added power has been, especially for the lack of offense this team has had recently and throughout the start of this year, a godsend. He's come in and all of a sudden he's hitting in the 3 hole, he's hitting in the 2 hole, he's looking like a dangerous hitter. He's not a guy that guys can just hit the mound and be like, "Kate, we got an out here." He's been good.
So Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber lead baseball in home runs. 19 for Ohtani, 18 for Judge and Schwarber. They've played 52, 53 games. Dalton Varsho with 8 leads the Blue Jays, has only played 20 games.
Yeah.
So
So he's
prorate
on
that
pace.
over.
Which means he's on pace with literally the best home run hitters in baseball.
This is what
So
I'm
no.
saying is prorate the games played of 20 over a 52 game span. He's on pace for 21 home runs at this point in the season. So he'd be leading Major League Baseball, leading Judge, leading Ohtani by a couple home runs. Ohtani on pace for 60 over the course of this season, 162 game pace. Varsho on pace for 64 home
Right.
runs at this rate. So yeah, this is not the real Dalton Varsho. Now, as far as can he be a guy that has some pop? I don't know. I still don't think so.
And that's
Like
the
he might
safe bet
he
here,
might end the
Adam.
season with 35 home runs, 37 home runs, and you'd be like, wow, like maybe he's I still don't think. I bet you next year he's back down to 20 to 25.
Okay. I mean,
I
and
think
that
he's an
is
elite defender. I don't think he's all of a sudden learned how to hit. I just don't think you how old is Dalton Varsho? He
28.
is well, and he'll be 29 in a month on July 2nd. So
So the safe bet here is that you take his baseball card, you flip it over, you look at his
yes.
career average, and that is most likely what you're going to get out of him. Now, as a Toronto Blue Jays fan who watched Edwin Encarnacion develop and bloom at 28 years old, who watched Jose Batista at 28, 29 years old bloom into the stud that carried this team to the ALCS in 2015. Could Dalton Varsho be that? Absolutely, he could,
Happens
right?
all the time. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Big Varsho fan is all I'll say.
I love Dalton Varsho. So to answer Madison's question, would you like to see him extended? And grounds crew, go ahead and pipe up.
I would as long as the number's right.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I
Like
think
if we
he's
can get him
represented by
for
Boris, so my guess is Boris is going to want every single last penny he can get. But that doesn't mean that it can't get done. The Blue Jays have made numerous deals with the Boris Corp in the last few years.
yeah, like if you could tell me we were gonna get him for 7 years, 140, 150 million, like 20-ish million a year, would you take that, wouldn't you?
No, that's too much for Dalton
Is it?
Varsho. In
I
my
don't think
opinion,
so.
that's too much for Dalton Varsho. Now, if you can get Dalton Varsho for 5 years, 80 million,
5 years, 80 million
yeah,
for Kirk money?
yeah. Well, yeah, for Kirk money. Am I crazy?
I think Varsho is worth more than Kirk.
Well, flip the fucking baseball card over and tell me that he's worth $140 million.
Wow. All right. That's fair.
Drop your comments below here, grounds crew. Where are you at on Dalton Varsho? Do you want to see him extended? What do you think is a fair price for him? And we will revisit this as soon as Friday. Moving on to Instagram. This is from South Bev. This one made me laugh. Goes, my two biggest gripes with Ross Atkins is not going after Castillo. Of course, Luis Castillo with Seattle. and the effing Teo trade. Not in that order, lol. This isn't for mailbag or anything, just venting. God, we need another bat. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it, it is funny that Teoscar Hernandez was let go for a reliever who, again, I'm not playing revisionist history here. Well aware that Eric Swanson was a big reason why this team's bullpen got them to the playoffs in 2023. I'm not denying that. Eric Swanson was a very valuable piece. But it does feel like this team has lacked a bat since Teo left. They went out and paid huge money for Anthony Santander, who had all the same deficiencies that this front office was complaining about Teoscar Hernandez having. Not a good fielder, hot and cold. Does his bat age well? Turns out the answer to all of this for Teoscar is he's been fine. And he probably would have been the way to go. They probably should have just signed Teoscar Hernandez. I know that when they traded him, he was on 1 year remaining, and that was the big reason why they did it, is they're like, hey, let's get some value out of this expiring contract because we're obviously not going to sign Teoscar Hernandez, this developed within the system guy that has been here his whole career outside of a few games in Houston. We're going to let him walk. And it has looked like a mistake since they've done it. So, South Bev, I get the frustration, and I put you in mailbag anyways.
There you go.
All right, folks, we're getting long in the tooth here. We will move along to YouTube. We do appreciate all of your questions and comments. You can always reach out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, the Walk Off Podcast on Blue Sky and Instagram. Patreon members get that automatic bump. Moving into the YouTube section here. So there's like 4 or 5 of them here. They're all related and they're all talking Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Before we dive into this, I will say this. You are absolutely allowed to be a huge Vladimir Guerrero Jr. fan and also at the same time point out when he's not doing enough. I truly do believe that.
Look, I'm not a face tattoo guy. Generally speaking, I don't like to get tattoos of other people's faces anywhere on my body. But if I was to get one, it would be Vlad Jr.
Yes. On
You
your
know what I'm
face.
saying?
His
Big
face
on my face. Exactly.
All right, so let's dive in here.
Let's get into it.
Daniel Wolski goes, does anybody think that Vladdy's numbers justify him being the 3rd highest paid player in the game? Santander deserves the criticism, but Vladdy deserves some also. Varsho missed a month with injury and still has more home runs. All valid points. And you know what? When you get paid big, yeah, the spotlight is going to be on you a little bit more than maybe you're used to it being on you. As soon as any player in any sport gets a generational contract, gets something as mega as Vladdy got, yeah, people are going to be a little bit more nitpicky about the production, even if you dive into Vladdy's numbers and they're still pretty good. And they are still pretty good. It's that when you when you compare it to the price tag, you're like, well, for that money, I want more. And that is a completely justifiable response.
So Vladdy by the numbers, 7 home runs, 279 batting average, an OPS of 808.
Mm-hmm.
$500 million. And you're thinking, for just another 300 million, we could have gotten Juan Soto, who's giving us 8 home runs, a 233 batting average, and a 771 OPS.
Think about those extra homers.
1 extra home run, 30 points worse on the OPS, and about 40 points worse on the batting average. So
Mark Ryan responds to Daniel here. He goes, Vlad's big contract doesn't start until next year. So he's only making 28.5 million this year.
wow.
And you can only judge a contract when it's pretty much complete. The whole value component thing. Again.
That's true.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
Both comments valid.
Well, asterisk, you can only judge once it's complete. You can only accurately judge.
Yes.
I can judge whenever the fuck I want. I
That's
cross
true.
my arms. I do it all the time
Yes.
at the food court. I judge people. Continue.
Uh, BC Blizzard responds to that. Sometimes I wonder when the thing going around third will no longer make sense. Perhaps that time has come and gone. I was surprised during last night's game to hear how good his numbers have been despite not hitting for extra bases. Again, true. The fact that Vladdy is not hitting dingers and has the numbers he has does bode well for the rest of the season. And you know darn well Vladdy is going to have a massive month at some point where he hits 12 dingers and just seems completely impossible to get out. As for shush mode, I love shush mode. Give me shush mode Vladdy all day long. Put it in a bobblehead. Daltramarist responds to this. Vlad is doing okay, and it's silly to judge him by 2 months. The home runs will be there. He's slashing 280, 384 on base percentage, 423 slug, and an 807 OPS. That slugging needs to be higher, and he needs to get more RBIs. His baseball savant percentiles don't have me worried though. 94% bat speed, 86% hard hit rate, 85% exit velocity, 77% on barrels. He's making contact, and those home runs will be coming. So, a bunch of comments about Vladdy. All of them have a lot of validity to them. All of them are correct in their assessments. All of them saying very different things. How you feel and respond to what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doing is on you. And honestly, most likely, probably valid, whatever you're feeling. Again, I will remind people you are absolutely allowed to love Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You're allowed to defend him. You're also allowed to do those two things while also saying, I want more. Love
Yep.
Vladdy. Love Vladdy. I love what he's doing. I want more.
I think saying it's not fair to judge him by 2 months is really like pretending like we don't have a longer, like a bigger sample size than that. Like there's he wasn't just dominant for 5 years and now he's having a bad year and we're like, oh, like we're holding this low. Like, so it's not quite that. I will say, I think I texted you this. I was talking with my dad, my nephew about this. Um, so StatCast started making publicly available bat path data. So angle of tilt, angle of like uppercut, whatever. And I found this not surprising at all, just confirming the frustration that everybody's aware of with Vlad. But that they say ideal angle of attack is between 5 degrees and 20 degrees to get that optimal trajectory of ball path. And that league average across Major League Baseball is around 10 degrees. And Vladdy has the worst bat attack angle in all of baseball, with 1 degree being his average upswing at the ball, 1 degree off of horizontal. That's why he's hitting so many grounders, why it's not leaving. Like that's the power is obviously there. The bat speed is there, but there's something about his swing right now where he's just at the point of contact, not hitting it up.
Mm-hmm.
I would say mechanically that could be fixed. Like the athleticism to swing so violently and have that much power, that's harder to achieve. So he's got the hardest thing, the power, the bat speed is there. It's just got to be a tweak on the mechanics
Like,
to,
can he unlock that? Because I know I was reading at him that so Vladdy has the hardest hit rate in baseball in when it comes to also the height of his launch angle. So he's hitting like these piss missiles just
yeah,
over the wall. No one is hitting it like that. Like
right.
Vladdy's still getting 30 home runs a year in the most insane difficult way of doing it, it seems. So can that be unlocked? Is there a way to unlock that? I don't know.
I think there is. I think
He's
there
still
has to be.
26. Like it
That's
is
the thing. It's like
hilarious.
there has to be some like go to Aaron Judge's hitting coach
Yeah.
and be like, here's $10 million. Teach me. Like, what am I? How do I? What are we doing wrong here? You know, like how can I tweak that? Like, they're
Hmm.
fucking every year you see these stories of, oh, Corbin Carroll, look at his batting stats from last year, look at it this year, right? Pete Crow Armstrong, look, here's how he was loading before, here's how he's getting set now.
Hmm.
Like it happens all the time. Guys are tinkering with their swing. So there's no way it like can't be fixed.
Hmm.
It's just, but I mean, there is also that built-in muscle memory, right? So like you are working against the way a guy's been swinging the bat for 26 years,
Yeah.
right? Like there is a little bit of that. And there is just like, is there a willingness to change? Is there a willingness to learn? Or is he just going to be stubborn and be like, I'm going to hit the lowest home runs of all time?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think he's stubborn. I think he'll come around. Like I don't know when it'll be, but like you said, he's so young and the power's there. So
I mean, I read off on MLB Mondays yesterday the list of the hardest hit balls in baseball, and it's literally just a list of O'Neill Cruz and Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
yeah,
until you get to about 115 miles an hour off the bat, and then you start seeing
yeah.
guys like James Wood and stuff like that. But like, it's honestly O'Neill Cruz and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. between the two of them hit the absolute snot out of the ball in comparison to the rest of baseball. And if they can just get the launch angle slightly more, we're going to see some big time power out of Vladdy, or at least that is the dream. Moving on. This is from Boom Must Die, who commented on our last mailbag saying, Eric Lauer pitched in Korea in the KBO last year. Scott, you knew that. So, yes, I did know that. Eric Lauer spent last year in the KBO. Now, I keep saying I don't know why, because I know that Boom Must Die knows I know this because the Friday before I announced that I like Eric Lauer. I was impressed with the fact that he went to the KBO and worked some stuff out. He was in Milwaukee in 2023. And then, of course, in Mailbag, I stated that the Blue Jays picked him up off waivers from Milwaukee. Not the case. They got him after his year in Korea. So there we go. There we are. Will I Will I make that mistake again? Will I act like 2024 didn't exist? That's a real Blue Jays fan move to do, right?
Yep.
Okay, last but not least, this is from Journey for Beginners. And this is a comment from your solo episode on Friday, which, by the way, I've had numerous people reach out at him. So great job there, buddy. People really enjoyed your
Thank
solo
you.
episode. You were talking about Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah.
And Journey for Beginners goes very good take on Sandy. I mentioned it to
Yep.
Blue Jays today, but they probably looked at me like I had 10 heads and didn't understand what I was talking about. I didn't get your thoughts across, but a gem at a buy low cost. These are the types you got to be looking for. Hey, I didn't even think of Sandy Alcantara, but that's not a bad idea.
So he didn't pitch last year because of Tommy John.
Mm-hmm.
Won a Cy Young the year before.
Mm-hmm. Typically,
He's
too, Adam, it does take, Tommy John recipients wind up coming back normally somewhere between, depending on the process, right? Whether it's the brace or the full one, anywhere
hmm
between 8 to 18 months is normally recovery time for Tommy John
hmm
surgery. And then you tack another 12 months of them being far below what they were beforehand. And then they seem to get it back in year two, which is kind of what we're seeing out of Sandy Alcantara. He's been an interesting study this year because if you look at his Ks, he'll have a game where in 5 innings he strikes out 8. Then the next
hmm
game he goes through 4, he strikes out 2, and he's pulled early.
Hmm.
he's struggling with his command again. Another thing, a lot of guys coming off of Tommy John surgery experience is just that lack of being able to put the pitches they want where they want. Bring him to the Blue Jays. I like it.
The numbers aren't fantastic this year,
They're
but
bad.
he's
They're plain
also,
bad.
and it's the Marlins. They don't want to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
They're past. So he's 2022. He signed a 5-year, $56 million contract, but virtually all of it is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year, Marlins paid him 3.8 million. The year he won a Cy Young, 6.3 million. The year he missed with Tommy John, 9.3 million. I know this year 17.3, next year 17.3, and then a club option for 21 after that. Like, man, you talk about
Especially if you
Kevin
can.
Gosman money.
I was just going to say, Adam, especially if you consider the fact Chris Bassett has gone after this year, Max Scherzer's gone after this year. We already don't have a fifth pitcher in this rotation. Kevin
It's
Gosman will
a
be on an expiring contract come next year. So yeah.
it's a long-term play. Like the numbers, okay, so he won the Cy Young in 2022. 228 innings pitched, an ERA of 2.28, and then in 2023, a 4.14 ERA that ended in Tommy John. So clearly wasn't right all season long, and it ended in disaster.
29
Missed
years
all
old,
of
by the way.
missed all of last season. Um, and now the ERA this year, 8.04
Mm-hmm.
through 10 starts. Leads Major League Baseball in earned runs allowed with 42. So, like, yeah, the numbers aren't good, but this is a guy that the Marlins are going to want to get rid of because they don't want to spend money, and he's
Mm-hmm.
in the expensive years of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they're looking to get rid of him. He is also, because he's, like you said, working through that recovery from Tommy John. This is not a guy that is like going to really make a difference this year. This isn't going to be an improvement over Bowden Francis. This isn't going to be an improvement over Lauer or whoever our revolving door
This is a
of fifth
play for the
starters
future.
is. This is
Absolutely.
a bit of a play for the future of like, hey, we think he's got the hardware. He won a
Mm-hmm.
Cy Young. The contract is not even that bad. Even if he doesn't recapture his Cy Young form at 17 million,
Yeah.
you're like, that's not that bad. 2 more years at 17 million, and you go, okay, he's pitching to a 4 ERA. He's our number 4 guy. It's Yusei Kikuchi. And then you don't pick up the club option or whatever.
And his
Or,
value is probably the lowest it's been since he was
right.
drafted.
So
So
this is the time to go. I
not
mean, you'd still
drafted,
have to give up
international
something
free
for him.
agency, but
But I think at least whoever's in on Alcantara this year isn't going to be competing for the other top of the market rentals that the Dodgers are going to want, that the Padres are going to be in on, that the Yankees are going to be in on, right? Like those are the guys that are looking for, you know, the Chris Bassett, the guy that's a short-term solution that can help right now. And we don't think there's a long-term thing here, but this journeyman is having a heck of a year, and he can help us right now, right? And Alcantara isn't that. So I think there is just a path where you go, okay, it's pretty low risk with insanely high upside.
mm-hmm.
Like Cy Young for 17 minutes, like Cy Young caliber guy for
It'll be
Yusei
interesting to
Kikuchi
see.
money.
It'll be
Uh,
interesting to see what the Marlins do with him because
if he
obviously,
moves at all, and what does he go like? What is the return on that?
mm-hmm. Because
Uh,
you, as the Marlins organization, if you're in their shoes, you would hate to give him up for pennies on the dollar, right? Like you would want some sort of significant return. Although I do think it has passed him getting like a top number 1 or 2 prospect in a system. So I would say I do think that guys like Arjun Namala and Trey Savage are safe. Now, is Aralvis Martinez a guy that might need to be given up? Yes. You know, another guy
mhm.
that's his ceiling is super high, one of the top prospects from 1 year ago, and there's a black mark on him, right? So maybe
Service
something
time
like
clock
that.
hasn't
Yeah.
started, so he's going to be cheap for as long as possible. Um, yeah, I would say with Alcantara coming back from Tommy John, there is still a risk. Like we do take for granted as baseball fans that, oh, Tommy John, wait 2 years and he's right back to where he
Mm-hmm.
was. It is still a high risk procedure. It's complicated. Of course, you can't just guarantee that he's going to be an elite pitcher, let alone a Cy Young pitcher when he is back to full strength next season. I think in that video I mentioned Ricky Tiedemann as being a possible bargaining piece, and then there was a comment on that video responding to that one that was, I think, pointed out the fact that Tiedemann is on the injured list
Mm-hmm.
as I think a reason that we couldn't trade him. So at the major league level, players on the injured list are tradable. Players at the minor league level on the injured list are not directly tradable, but still there's loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
So you've heard trades where a player to be named later, right? Jays trade this guy for whatever and a player to be named later. So that does allow teams to trade players that are on the 60-day and full season injured list. Um, that is basically what that's there for. So the player to be named later list, how that works is the team offering that provides a pool of players, right? So, hey, we're going to make this trade for Alcantara. You give us Alcantara. We give you Elvis Martinez and a player to be named later. And then we provide a list of these are the 5 guys you can choose.
Mm-hmm.
Do your scouting on them, whatever. At the end of the season, you pick one of those guys, right? So both teams have agreed. Here's the 5 we're willing to do, whichever you choose, no matter what happens,
Yeah.
you get them. And the other team has decided, yes, we're fine with taking one of these guys, but we want to do more due diligence. We don't have time. We'll pick one eventually. So Tiedemann can be included in the player to be named later list of players, even though he's on the injured list. So Tiedemann, injured, still tradable, and that's just how they would do it, is through the player to be named later loophole. So
And on that, that has been a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for all of your interaction throughout the week, everybody. We do have trivia night coming up here. Baseball Town Trivia Club at Left Field Brewing in Liberty Village here in Toronto. That is going to be next Monday. It is an off day for the Blue Jays. You have an opportunity if you are a Blue Jays wizard and you just know everything about this organization to win yourselves a free giant jug of beer for your table, a
nice.
appetizer plate for the squad, if you will, as well as free entry to the
Sweet.
next one. And then we're also giving away 6 packs of beer throughout the night. It is quite a evening of
Nice.
baseball and Blue Jays, and it's only $10 for you to participate. So you can get your tickets. They're going to be in the description here or in the comments section. Again, that is Monday night at Left Field Brewing. We did it 1 month ago, and it was a ton of fun just hanging out, talking baseball, doing a little Blue Jays trivia. So, again, if you are a
Cool.
Blue Jays know it all, this is for you. That is June 2nd. Take care, everybody. We'll talk very soon. We will see you Friday.